Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all incredibly well from whichever part of the world you are watching. We are now in Easter weekend for some of us, or getting into the Easter. So I hope you're all managing to get some break in, or for those of you in the hotel's probably preparing for a very busy weekend. But either way, I hope you're all incredibly well. Today, what I wanted to talk about is a subject that I'm seeing and noticing very often that has kind of popped up in our industry, and that is the notion of entitlement. How our wellness leaders, or how we wellness professionals feel entitled to certain privileges and benefits, or the same privileges and benefits as other heads of department in a hotel, just because wellness has become something very, very important in today's day and age, right? Um, and what I wanted to talk about specifically is really question whether this sense of entitlement is serving us or will serve us into the future. And while I was preparing for today's session, what I wanted to do is, okay, let's get clear on what entitlement means to me. So this is how I define entitlement, having inspired myself through Google and artificial intelligence. So entitlement refers to a mindset where individuals believe they inherently deserve certain privileges, benefits, or recognition without necessarily having earned them through effort or merit. So I'll say that again. So entitlement refers to a mindset where individuals believe they inherently deserve certain privileges, benefits, or recognition without necessarily having earned them through effort or merit. And if we extrapolate that to today's topic, it would mean our wellness leaders expecting a special treatment or recognition based solely on the fact that wellness is a must have in today's businesses. Every hotel must be incorporating the well being of their guests, their community, and their people. And we wellness leaders feel that we're entitled to that special treatment or recognition just because wellness has become this trend and it is a must have, rather than on demonstrating our competence or our contribution to the hotel's overall asset ecosystem, tangible and intangible. And here's how I've seen entitlement show up. The first way is entitlement to benefits and privileges. We feel entitled to have the same status and voice as our fellow leaders. For example, directors of rooms and directors of food and beverage, both direct revenue generating areas. Secondly, entitlement in having it easy. We feel we're entitled to not have to work so hard to make wellness a success. And lastly, the entitlement to being understood. We feel we're entitled to the whole hotel knowing and understanding wellness, the whole wellness business and the complexities, without necessarily acknowledging or recognizing the complexity and the difficulty of other departments, like rooms and food and beverages, for example. So these are the three ways I see this sense of entitlement show up. And what I'd like to do and talk about today is delve into each of these three ways and highlight how they don't necessarily serve us, or how they won't necessarily serve us in the future if we just don't stop and draw awareness to where our mindset is right now. So looking into the first sense of entitlement, that entitlement to benefits and privileges. So we feel we're entitled to the same benefits and privileges as our heads of department of, let's say, rooms and food and beverage. Now, definitely don't get me wrong. I am not saying we do not deserve that same status. I am not saying that we don't deserve not to feel treated in a way that is less than other department heads. That's what I'm definitely not saying. But what I am saying is that feeling of entitlement to have that same voice, that same seat at the big table, but without demonstrating or having made wellness an important revenue and value contributor. I question whether that will really serve us, just being given that seat and the voice, when sometimes in some hotels, we represent only 1 to 3% of total hotel revenue. We're only making 1 to 3%, where the other departments making 40, 50, 60%. Can we honestly and truly demand that same status or privilege or benefit? For me, I think what will serve us is actually doing everything that is in our power to move the needle from 1 to 3% to 40%. Now, I think, just studying and analyzing while I was preparing for today's session is why we think that rooms and food and beverage are unfairly given that status and we aren't given the same as them. And inherent in that way of thinking is that our directors of food and beverage and our directors of rooms have not had to work hard to get that seat and that voice at the big table. Now, if we look at both rooms and food and beverage, and if we look at how complex their areas are and how much grind and hard work they have needed to do, and they continue to do, we have people at front office working 24 hours a day. We have people in food and beverages. Sometimes I see the same shift doing breakfasts, and sometimes they're closing up for dinner. The amount of grind and hard work they need to do in order to produce the 40 or 50% of total hotel revenue is immense. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we wellness leaders don't work. I am the first one to say we are under immense amount of stress. Now, I know we can't compare each department, each business is unique. Wellness is unique, rooms is unique, food and beverage is unique, and we just can't do a blanket kind of comparison. That said, what we can't do is ignore that many times in our hotels, we wellness leaders sometimes have it easier when it comes to the volume of business we're overlooking, the amount of people we're looking, our opening hours. And I think if we just suddenly just be given that same voice and that big seat, when we represent only 1 to 3%, I think we're doing ourselves a huge injustice, because we are going to have to ignore all the hard work that is required to get to that end point. Now, I run a marathon a year, right? I have been doing this for now over a decade and a half, trying to do that marathon a year. Now, just giving someone that medal at the end of the day won't make them a stronger athlete than the person who's had to train every single month, get their muscles stronger, deal with all the injuries, all that mind slog that is required, and that suffering, not to mention when you're running those 42 kilometers, how atrociously difficult it is. My muscles and everyone else around there, the amount of work they have needed to do the amount of strength, mental, physical, psychological, emotional, all the hard lifting they've needed to do, we're going to want to bypass that and give the same kind of benefit. So just give someone the medal, whether they've run the 42 kilometers or not. And I don't think we're going to serve our wellness leaders to suddenly be given a status without having worked for it. When we represent 30 to 40%, we will be in a very different place to where we are today. We won't be delving into like lists long of KPIs that actually don't move a needle. We will need to stretch our thinking. Our leaders will need to be far more strategic, far stronger, far more astute in order to manage a business that represents 40% of a total hotel revenue of a business as complex as a hotel. Now, I think just feeling entitled to their status just because wellness is important and must have, without actually having worked for that success, I think we're not going to be doing ourselves any justice. And the second point is, now delving into the second point of entitlement to it being easy, right? In today's world where we see quick results, money is or appears to be made quickly. We want, in a highly digital world, whatever we want it now and we want it quick. So results quickly. And the notion of working hard, the notion of going through discomfort, the notion of grind has kind of, taken a back seat, and we don't stress importance to that. Now, don't get me wrong, but I am not saying is that we should be doing 15-hour shifts, 7 days a week, and burning ourselves and our teams to the ground. That is not what I'm advocating for. But why do we think it should be easy for us to make such a complex business successful? And I can't help but to think that, again, is not going to serve us. And I also think there is an incongruence. We are in the very business of making people feel uncomfortable. You do not get someone to shed off 10 kilos or 20 kilos without hard work, discomfort, and really, slugging to go, that there is a lot of learning involved. We're asking our clients to work on themselves. We're asking them to kick off their sugar addiction or whatever addictions they have. We're asking them to shed weight. We're asking them to look after themselves. We're asking them to deeply go through this phase of introspection, to really connect with themselves in order to get out to the other end, to achieve that level of happiness and well-being they're looking for. So if we are asking our guests to go through that discomfort, we are not promising them easy. They will need to work hard. If we are in that very business, how on earth can we think we are entitled to have it easy for ourselves, to make wellness a success? Because when we feel we're entitled to have it easy, we're actually delegating our responsibility to our director of sales and marketing, to our director of finance, to our GM. They all need to make it easy for us in order to get wellness successful. If we are not getting the revenue figures we want, it's because obviously no one else is supporting us, or sales and marketing isn't selling us. Now that's the easy part. When in fact we have to be the ones to make our businesses a success. If someone needs to shed down 20 kilos, the therapist is not going to run not going to run the kilometers or do the hard work. It's the actual client. So if we want our wellness businesses to be successful, we wellness leaders are going to have to do it. And yes, it's going to be hard. And yes, it's going to require some grind. And oh yes, it is going to be uncomfortable. Now, I am not saying for it to be horrible, as I mentioned. We're not talking about 15-hour shifts, insane conditions. No, we're talking about needing to do that brain work, putting in the hard work to make wellness that 40 to 50%. And when we feel entitled to easy, we're actually delegating all our responsibility to other people. And I'm not sure how that serves us. And lastly, last but not least, is entitlement to be understood. For us, we're in such a difficult and complex business, so we feel entitled to be understood. We feel we are important. We are important, and that everyone in the hotel should understand that. Our heads of departments, our GM, our owners, our colleagues, even our clients. And this is an age-old complaint. Trust me, I've been there, done that, and I have been the one also complaining where no one seems to understand wellness. But then if we really stop to think about it, do we understand truly the complexity of other businesses within the hotel? Rooms, food and beverage, conferences. Do we understand that complexity? Can our receptionist within the spa tell you what time breakfast is open or what is in the menu, let alone even know sometimes the number of food and beverage outlets or what's the average daily rate is, for example? If we don't know what's happening in the rest of the hotel, and we're the small part of a bigger operation, how is it fair that we feel entitled that everyone else should know about us when we are not doing what we need to know about them? Now, don't get me wrong. I am not, again, advocating that reception, the hotel reception or food and beverage should not know where the spa is or our opening hours or kind of what treatments and brands we're working with. Clearly, they do need to have that knowledge. And in the same way, we wellness people need to make the effort to know what's happening around the whole hotel. It is a dual carriageway. That information needs to be something that goes on both sides. Now, we can't say we're entitled that everyone has to understand that. And let's say we tick that box. But if we don't try to understand other departments and adapt ourselves accordingly, I just don't see how that relationship is going to be sustainable long in the future. It will, that imbalance will come back and bite us in the future when we just feel entitled to be understood. Instead of making the effort to really understand where we are within the bigger picture and how we as wellness people can serve the rest of the hotel, our colleagues, our guests, even our community. So today what I wanted to do was just jump on here and talk about the sense of entitlement that I am seeing, because success and good times are a lousy teacher. Now, the good thing that came out of these last few years is that wellness has been put front and center. There is no doubt that wellness has become this transverse industry that is plugged on to many industries and many organizations. We all know it's incredibly important. But just feeling entitled to certain privileges and benefits, just because what we do, finally people are recognizing is important, I'm not sure that is going to serve us. Because as an industry, we really do have a lot of work to do. We have done such amazing work. We're in such a brilliant place, but we still have this whole majesty of this whole value iceberg to work on. Still, if we did a broad brush on measuring what wellness represents of total hotel revenue across the globe, we will still see that that percentage is incredibly small. And I have zero doubt in my mind that wellness can be and will be that very strong contributor, revenue and value. And we will be able to demonstrate that. But the harsh truth is, just because we're a must-have does not make us astute business leaders to get our wellness offerings to that place where we're making 40, 50, 60% of total hotel revenue. We, as an industry, we as wellness leaders need to do a lot of work to get there. And we will be doing ourselves, our industry, and future generations a severe disservice if we didn't work on us and if we slipped into that mode of being entitled to certain privileges, entitled for things to be easy, and entitled for us to just be understood without trying to understand others, without doing that grind and hard work that is required, without going through that discomfort. And instead of just being dashed out a voice and a seat at the table and really not knowing how to use that voice and shape the whole hotel, I think we're going to be doing ourselves a huge injustice. So that was just my 2 cents worth today. I hope you all have a wonderful day ahead. Take care now.